Well, that's it. This is the Wrestling Talk. I am your host, Dante Alexander. Saturday night's main event went off the air minutes ago, probably 10, 15 minutes ago. And we witnessed John Cena's last match. So we knew this was coming for about a year now, and gotta say, it didn't really sink in until today. It didn't really hit me until earlier. And gotta say, for better or for worse, through good times, through not so great times creatively, John Cena has been a consistent staple in the company. And his legacy is so strong, due in part by the fact that he has had a stronger, or I should say longer lasting career than his predecessors. And I'm just talking about amount of time he spent wrestling. So as much as people have compared him to The Rock, to Stone Cold, to Hulk Hogan, Cena has surpassed them all in terms of how consistent he was and how consistently at the top he was. Now, this was a night where he was the focus, and we knew how important this night would be. And everyone had an idea of how the night was going to go. So it is scripted. We're not new to that. But the one thing that will always draw intrigue is us as fans trying to determine who would be the logical choice to win a match. And in this case, you could say we had a clue. And the biggest clue is in the midst of all these, vignettes and packages and clips of interviews that Cena's been doing during this retirement tour. He has put emphasis on the future, and that is a part of why NXT talent and TNA talent was featured on this edition of Saturday Night's Main Event, because Cena deemed it so that the future can be put on the forefront. Respectable, commendable. So with that being said, this is the part where, if you haven't seen the conclusion of this event, I'm about to spoil it. So let this be a very distinct warning. Spoiler alert. If you have not seen Saturday Night's Main Event, if you have stayed away from social media, then I'm about to spoil it for you right here and now. John Cena lost. And not only did he lose, but he lost decisively. He lost without any controversy in the match. He lost without any bullshit taking place. No interferences, no trickery, none of that. He tapped out. He tapped out to the sleeper hole. So, that as the finish. Before I even get into my thoughts on it, that as the finish did not go over well with the live crowd. The crowd was chanting bullshit by the end of it. But I cannot overlook the fact that once that match ended and that bell rang and Gunther's music started playing, there was a almost deafening silence because the crowd was in shock. They couldn't believe that Cena, not so much that he lost, because we could fathom Cena losing. It's the fact that he tapped out. That was essentially the plot and the story of the match. Would Cena give up? And I'm a lifelong wrestling fan. So over time you get used to certain tropes. And a trope that I thought they were going to use, I thought they were going to use the trope where Cena's he's on his last legs, he's given it his all. There's no more third wind, there's no more second gear, none of that. It's about to be over, and he's exhausted all of his strength in this match. I, like many, thought that if Cena was going to lose this match, that he would pass out in the sleeper hold. And that way, the story coming out of the match is that Cena never gave up, not even until the very end. Even at the very end, he stuck to his guns, he held strong, held tightly to his convictions, and he never gave up. Well, it turns out that's not what ended up happening in this match. And yes, the crowd booed Triple H once he showed his nose. Once he showed his face. The crowd booed him. And I also heard the crowd say, fuck you to Triple H, if I'm not mistaken. And I have a lot of criticism for Triple H. But I don't necessarily know if this one is on him. This very well could have been Cena's call. This very well could have been his request to tap out, because maybe he wanted to do the honors in this way. Without me focusing too heavily on the fact that he tapped out, I do want to say, or I want to harken back on the point that Cena losing tonight kind of coincides, or it aligns with the idea of putting the future of the company, of the business, ahead of himself. Because at this point, he knows he's done. So how do you want to leave? And I do want to believe that it was Cena's choice, ultimately, not only to lose, but also to tap out. You could kind of see it on his face right before he tapped out. And when his facial expression changed, I kind of thought like, oh, he's about to pass out. Kayfabe pass out. But no, he was like, all right, that's it. So, yeah, the initial shock is still there. But even bigger than that, the shock of knowing that that was actually Cena's last match. Yeah, it's gonna take a while for it to really set in. I'm old enough to remember Cena's debut, and not because they show clips of it ever so often, but I actually watched it on TV when it happened. And I remember the feeling in the air when that happened. It felt like, oh, this is something special that has happened here. And that special feeling, even though his career was in jeopardy around that time, that special feeling never really went away. And yeah, there are a lot of horrible booking decisions that have taken place during Cena's career. So that led to him being a very polarizing figure, at no fault of his own, I'm assuming. So yeah, Cena's career longevity and the connection that he's had with fans and I guess, non-fans alike, is something to really remark on, something to really look back on and just be in awe of. I'm not gonna lie, like I said, I saw the dude debut and I followed his career even till now. So yeah, this definitely hit me in the feels. Got me emotional. I can admit that. No, I've not been the biggest John Cena fan throughout his career. The time where I was the biggest Cena fan was when he was the Doctor of Thugonomics. That was the time where I was truly a fan. I was still a kid at the time too. What was I, like 9, 10 years old at the time? Huge fan. But of course, once he got drafted from SmackDown to Raw, that's when they changed up his character a little bit. And they took that edge away from him. Stopped rapping, which was, you know, how convenient, right? And then at a certain point, I think he was probably being booked a little too strong, and fans were not feeling that. And even watching it on TV, you could start to feel like a shift where they're really not letting this guy lose big matches. And most of the time when he does lose a big match, it's because someone else got involved, or there was a referee bump, and there was a fuck finish or something like that. But it made you question what you were watching. It made you question if you should even be watching it at all at times. And yes, we can blame Vince McMahon for a lot of that. Credit where it's due, right? I will say that in these last few years, I would say going back to what, maybe 2017, I believe that's when Cena had his match with AJ Styles. 2017, 2018, somewhere in that ballpark. That definitely was kind of like a career resurgence in terms of Cena's in-ring work, because there have been many rivalries in Cena's career. The most notable ones being with Edge, with Randy Orton, with CM Punk. Those are the most notable ones. And I mean, like, if you want to count The Rock as well, you can count him. Even though I don't really consider that a rivalry. I thought of that as more of like a main event attraction match. Therefore, these two have to have an issue with each other. And I feel like the story was good. It was good for the most part. And among all of Cena's rivalries, there are certain opponents that really brought out the best in him. And AJ Styles is definitely one of those opponents who brought out the best in Cena. So, I've seen every stage of the guy's career. And how fitting was it that his first wrestling name was The Prototype? How ironic that, you know, considering what he would go on to become, and considering all that he would do in this business, the prototype. The prototype turned into the archetype. The archetype for what a professional wrestler should aspire to be. And of course, that's really setting the bar high. I don't think anyone is ever going to match John Cena in terms of all he's accomplished in and out of the ring. Forget about outside the ring. No one's gonna come close to that. But he leaves a great example for you to try to aspire to. I don't know that in this era or any era going forward, I don't know that anyone will ever reach the heights that Cena did. I don't know that anyone will ever be the face of the company for as long as he was. Even in the rocky transition that took place when they were pushing Roman as the new face, and that didn't go over well with crowds. At that point in time, even though Cena was absent, it still felt like Cena was the face of the company. It took a lot for Roman to reach the heights that he reached in terms of being so over with the crowd. Who would have thought? All it took was a excellently executed heel turn, and then a story to carry that heel turn. But I feel like you don't get as much of a crowd reaction. You don't get the same reaction from the crowd if it weren't for Cena carrying the company in a way for so long. And like I said, polarizing. So the crowd at one point, let's go Cena. Cena sucks. But I'm really glad that on his way out, he did go out universally beloved by the crowds. The internet is a different story. There are people who are still claiming to hate Cena for whatever reason. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with wrestling. I don't know. But this is where we're at now. And even if we take a look at Twitter, there are different reactions to what took place here. Jason Solomon says, Cena losing, I understand. Cena losing that way was a horrendous decision. And we have JD from New York saying, could not have asked for a better final match than what we were treated tonight. Gunther brought it, Cena delivered. That was incredible. I thought they would send the crowd home happy. Instead, Gunther taps out John Cena. So, people are definitely going to have different opinions on how this went down. And I think it's time that I really share mine. I did say how I thought he was going to pass out if he was going to lose. Yeah, ultimately, I'm not really bothered by it, right? Because, alright, for one, it's justifiable that he lost. Justifiable in the sense that what would he even gain from winning in this last match? What would he gain from that? What is to be gained from him winning? And what is to be carried forward? Gunther, it's clear that he's been pushed as a top star in the company for a little while now. Former World Heavyweight Champion, former Intercontinental Champion, former NXT Champion. So yeah, it's clear that he's being pushed as a top star, and he's already got the retirement of Goldberg under his belt. So this is another tremendous notch in Gunther's belt. I wouldn't call him a modern day legend killer because that's not really even his gimmick. But as the ring general, he definitely is asserting dominance over his opponents. And I would not be surprised if we're maybe like months away from this man being a world champion again. So, Gunther won. And I feel like I have much more to say about the night in totality, but I really did want to share my thoughts on Cena's retirement match. It was a solid match. It was a solid match. I don't think they tried too many things in a way where either person would be exposed. I felt like they kept it within the realm of what they're capable of, which is the smartest thing to do in any wrestling match, no matter who's wrestling. Keep it within the realm of what you're capable of, and tell the story. Don't be fooled into thinking that storytelling takes away from wrestling. Pro wrestling is not pro wrestling without storytelling. I enjoy high flying. I enjoy spots. I enjoy crazy bumps. I enjoy the flips and the maneuvering, but that stuff is supposed to feel special. And it's hard for that stuff to feel special when you're inundated with it, when you're given too much of it. A wise man once said, if you highlight everything, you highlight nothing. So with that in mind, the story is what really carries these matches. I enjoyed the entire event. For Cody versus Obafemi, I would have preferred a definitive end to that match. But someone on Twitter did raise a great point stating that neither man could really afford to lose right now. And I agree with them. I agreed with them, and I also told them that because of that, it should make the match exciting. It did. The crowd was very much behind Obafemi, but they were behind Cody too. But they were really loud for Oba, which is great. My feelings about SmackDown and Raw have changed recently. Let's put it this way. NXT is the main reason I continue to watch WWE. Because I believe NXT is the most consistently booked show in the company. The show that has the most logic-based booking. I'm not saying NXT is perfect, because it's not. But I'll say they have the most logic-based booking. The match between Bayley and Sol Ruca. I was concerned that that match wouldn't have a definitive end because Lyra accompanied Bayley to the ring and Zarya accompanied Sol Ruca to the ring. I was concerned, especially since they had like this story with the story with Sol Ruca and Zarya having tension with each other. They just pieced it up this past Tuesday on NXT, and I can happily say that there was no tension between them tonight. There was no Zarya getting involved in the match and Lyra getting involved in the match. No. At a very definitive, decisive end. And even in defeat, I don't feel like Bayley is hurt by this. Now, I do question Bayley's place on the card, and I do believe that she should be higher on the card. The expression, they should put respect on her name. And she's doing great things outside the company. She really is a role model, and she's living up to that in the truest sense. And she cares about the future of women's wrestling. So for that, I commend her, and I have nothing but respect for what she's doing. Then we have a very exciting, high-flying tag team match, and in the opinion of many, a dream match. We've got the World Tag Team Champions AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. We call them AJ Lee. Versus Devon Evans and TNA X Division Champion Leon Slater. So I'll say, I don't know how many months ago it was, maybe 3-4 months ago when was it 3-4 months ago or was it longer? It was definitely this year. This year is definitely when I first saw Leon Slater wrestle. And from what I saw, I thought to myself it would be a dream match to see him versus Javon Evans, because their styles complement each other so well. They're both these incredible high flyers. But they've been working as a tag team during this interpromotional working relationship between NXT and TNA. So it's led to some pretty cool moments and some pretty cool matches. So as a team, I wouldn't necessarily say Javon and Leon have the chemistry of a team, but I do think they have the chemistry of two guys who have a similar style of wrestling, who you can see are genuinely happy to do what they're doing. And of course, they're young. They're both 21 years old, so they've got that exuberance and that energy that you would have at that age. And they got to wrestle the phenomenal AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. Ultimately, AJ Styles and Dragon Lee picked up the win, and once again, I don't believe that the ones who lost actually are hurt by that loss. I feel like this was almost an exhibition match in essence. There were no bragging rights to take away from this. It was a match for the sake of having a great match. There was no story. Yeah. So yeah, there was no story behind it, which is a departure from what you usually see in WWE. Every now and then you'll get a match like this where there's not really a big story leading to the match. The only story you could really extrapolate from this is that Leon Slater is X Division champion. AJ Styles was the inaugural X Division champion so many years ago. So if it were a one-on-one match, that would absolutely be like a full circle dream match, Leon Slater versus AJ Styles. So AJ Styles plans to retire in 2026. Hopefully we get to see AJ Styles versus Leon Slater one-on-one. I don't know if the X Division title will be on the line, but I would like to see them wrestle one-on-one. And I enjoyed the match. Then we get to the main event, which is Gunther versus Cena. But right before that main event, The Miz interrupts Stephanie McMahon and Joe Tessitore. And Miz kind of, complains, bitches and moans, talking about how this tournament is trying to make it seem like I wasn't important, like I wasn't a big part of John Cena's career, this, that, and the third. R-Truth comes out and makes a joke about the tournament ballot balls, and we see that the name on one of the ballots was Joe Hendry. Miz says his name, then Hendry appears. So it was just a little, comic relief moment, a shared comic relief moment where R-Truth and Joe Hendry get to beat up the Miz, and they also did the homage to Cena. So that is definitely something that we got a lot of in the last month or two. A lot of people doing John Cena's, five knuckle shuffle. So I don't think we're going to get that much more of I don't think we're going to get that homage from anyone anymore. I think those specific moves will be retired. At least, in the near future retired. Not saying that in the future someone won't do something similar to a five knuckle shuffle or something similar to an attitude adjustment, but those names and those words, those IPs are essentially going to be put in the WWE vault. As far as that theme music goes, there's actually a lawsuit about the sample of it that I'm not going to go into detail over because I don't even remember the details to tell you word for word, and I'd rather not screw it up. But if you want to look into that, just, look for a John Cena theme song lawsuit. But yeah, like I said, I enjoyed the card, but it definitely hit me. It hit me today that this is actually the last match that John Cena's will have. And it just makes me feel that much older knowing that I saw Cena debut and I saw him retire. Grand opening, grand closing, and I mean that in the most respectful way. It was a grand opening, but an even grander closing on the career of the greatest of all time. Those are my thoughts. My name is Dante Alexander, and this has been the Wrestling Talk.